and record.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Lilia, can you hear me? Oh.
Hi again.
Great. Okay. And also Oren's online sneakily in the background.
Hi, Oren. How are you?
Oren.
Hi, Astu. How are you?
We have him on mute because otherwise, because we're sitting so close together, it creates this
Right.
full echo sound. So,
Yeah.
but he'll be lurking in the background. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and try to go live on Facebook, and then in a couple minutes we'll start, and then we'll probably give it another minute or two before we actually start to let people join. I'll go ahead and do that. Let's see.
Facebook's going, so.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go live on Facebook in just a minute. So just FYI, everybody. Okay, looks like it's setting up.
Oh, there it is, live.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and broadcast, and then we'll give it another minute for people to join, and then we'll get started, okay?
Okay.
Cool.
Did you get registrations?
We did.
No, we got some.
So if you're joining now, thank you so much. We'll probably get started in another minute or two to give people a chance to join. So just hold tight for a little bit, and thank you again. Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for joining us. My name is Cassandra, and I'm a program manager with the International Center for Journalists. I work on a program called the TruthBuzz Fellowship, Fact-Checking That Makes the Truth Go Viral, which is sponsored by Craig Newmark Philanthropies, and is a project that uses creative solutions to combat misinformation. So we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar today. This is the third and final webinar in the Dow Jones-TruthBuzz webinar series. It's sponsored by Dow Jones and Craig Newmark Philanthropies, so a huge thanks to them for their support. This series of webinars is focused on practical steps journalists can take to stop the spread of misinformation. And today we're lucky to have two experts here to talk about how newsroom coalitions can work together to counter dis and misinformation. So just some quick webinar attendees can ask questions by going to the bottom of their screen and raising their hand in the Q&A tab, or they can type questions directly into the chat to the right. If you're watching live on Facebook, you can also comment on the post directly with your question, and we'll try to catch those as well. So I'll go ahead and let our panelists introduce themselves. Astudestra, would you like to start, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, hello. My name is Astudestra Ajengrastri. I'm a journalist from Indonesia. Right now, I'm working with the BBC Indonesia as a social media editor. But before joining BBC, I was a TruthBuzz fellow for Indonesia, and one of the projects that I handled during the TruthBuzz fellow was involving in a coalition called Cek Fakta. It is a fact-check coalition between 24 online media in Indonesia. It's quite big, and we have our crown project during the election of 2019. And I will tell you some stuff about what we did during the election, what kind of other projects that we are still doing.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Lilia, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, my name is Lilia Zaharia. I am from Association of Independent Press from Moldova. And also I am the editorial coordinator at stopfalse.md, which is a website in which we debunk fake news and misinformation. I also am the coordinator of ProFact Moldova, is a fact-checking network, which has working in this year, and in which consists of 38 media outlets from national level and also from regional and local level.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining. So before we dive in with kind of talking a little bit about how newsrooms can collaborate, I wanted to set the scene. So this is a question for both of you. What are kind of the biggest mis and disinformation challenges in Moldova and Indonesia, respectively? You know, what sort of false messages are you seeing, and who do they serve?
Okay, so when we joined, the coalition started working fact-checking during the election, a lot of the problem is, of course, related to misinformation that coming from different political parties, and that they have their own buzzer and bot armies, or, you know, things like that. And the thing is, we can never know which information is coming from who and what are their intentions. So what we do is just we keep on fact checking, but at some point it feels like we are doing that in vain. But aside from that, you know, I think we did quite a great job in doing the live fact checking during the debate, because it's a totally different fact checking style. One is verification of claims made by the candidates, and the other is fact-checking misinformation in social media. So I think those two different fact checks have different treatment, and you know, like every collaboration have to understand what their aims. I think the one thing that is difficult is to, you know, put the joint effort and have the same goal or aims.
Great, thank you. Lilia, would you say you encountered kind of similar challenges, or were you seeing similar issues around where misinformation and disinformation was coming from in Moldova?
Exactly, we have similar problems. Media from the Republic of Moldova is confronting with propaganda and misinformation from two sides. One side is the internal one, and another is external one. The internal one is supplied by the politicians and their affiliates, because many percent of our media is in hand of politicians. And another big problem is external propaganda, which comes largely from Kremlin. Pro-Kremlin media frequently publishes misinformation, speculation, has different narratives against the European Union, against NATO, against the United States. And also they publish this misinformation. But on the other hand, they emphasize and promote the image of the Russian President Putin. We have this problem because in Moldova there are a lot of pro-Kremlin websites in which daily they publish and disseminate these misinformation texts and articles.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. And Lilia, going off of that, could you talk a little bit about ProFact Moldova's work in investigating these false stories and spread in Moldovan media, and the kind of partnership with independent newsrooms and local so-called troll hunters and as well as researchers in the UK?
We began to debunk and to investigate this misinformation at a false website. And after that, we did this network ProFact Moldova. We go step by step and we discuss with journalists, with editors, to how to combine our efforts to debunk this fake news. That's why we managed to have 160 members in this network. There are 85 journalists, and there are also experts in different areas. We have journalists from all corners of the country. We have from the south, from the east, from the west, and we investigated and debunked misinformation and propaganda texts together with these journalists. Because it is very difficult, for example, for one journalist from the south, from a small media outlet, to do this work lonely. That's why we helped together and investigated, we think, good texts.
Absolutely. Okay, great. And I just wanted to pause for a moment to say, for any attendees or listeners, if you have questions, please feel free to put it into the chat. I want this to be kind of an interactive conversation. So if you have any questions, please let us know. And going off of that, Astu, could you go a little bit more into Check Facta, including how it started, who was part of it, and what your role was in kind of helping the coalition get off the ground?
Okay, I'm going to share a document here on my screen. And I have prepared this. This is, well, this is kind of what we do within the Check Facta. And can you see the whole screen or?
Yeah, you see the whole screen.
Okay, great. So the Check Facta coalition is actually, it is not founded when the election happened. It started a year before that. So the background of this coalition is actually because we have a local election in Jakarta, which was very divided. And there's this 22 online media that is in the Association of Indonesian Cyber Media. They kind of think of, what can we do as a journalist to contribute to a positive debate and, of course, to debunk the misinformation that is going on about politics. So we joined forces with the Alliance of Independent Journalists and also Mafindo. This is an anti-hoax society. So they're not a media actually, but they become neutral, someone that could be a neutral partner for the media, which is actually becoming very beneficial in the end. So we have this collaboration, and it's kind of, we set it up as a broad collaboration because we also work with Google, and also 6 of us is actually a third-party fact checker. So we also in touch with WhatsApp and a lot of other parties, including academics and ICFJ when I come in as a TruthBuzz fellow. The main project for TechFacta is actually the website, because all of the newsroom, when they have a fact check article, we put it in the same website and use the database for a lot of things. We are planning to have like a WhatsApp channel, so when people ask some particular misinformation, we already have the database and something like that. We also use the database as research materials for academics that later on also work with TechFacta Coalition. And of course, we have eventually the 1929 election happened, and we think about going to have a live fact checking. So I will share you some things that we did during the debate. It's gonna be 2 different things when we do the fact checking during the election. The first one is the debate. It is live. We did it live, and then of course it's a verification from the candidates. And then we also do the live fact checking at the day of the election, which is basically debunking hoax in social media. Both are very different, and both also have its own challenges. First of all, because it's live during the debate, so it's kind of like we're in a rush, and we have to do all the fact checks within the 2 hours of the debate. And of course, when we do the live fact checking on the day of the election, it's 2 days, April 16 and 17. It's kind of like a marathon when we come up early in the morning at 16, and then we go back at night, debunking all day, and then it happened again the next day. So it's really very labor intensive job, but we have a lot of people come and go in rotation. So it really helped a lot if you have a lot of newsrooms, a lot of fact checkers, and you prepare something like this, like a marathon, then you can, prepare to have a rotation. The other thing that we also think about, and this is my role best in the coalition, is to spread the fact-checked contents into social media. So we find the misinformation in the social media, we fact-check it, and then we spread it again on the social media. Hopefully we can, reach more people, and within this coalition, it really depends again on how is the agreement or the consensus with your coalition. I know that when we first doing this, we talked with people from Brazil. I forgot what the name is.
Comprova.
The Comprova, yeah. We talk with people from Comprova, and we share some tips, and we listen to how their experience, and then try to implement it in Indonesia. Yeah, so I guess what we learned from the collaboration is that, when you do a collaboration work, sometimes it is and Check Facta Coalition is very loose. I mean, we're not appointing someone to become the leader, but when you do a project like a debate, live fact checking, you have to appoint someone to become the leader and, you know, to arrange the newsroom so that you can get in order. And you have to know the tools. I think Lilia also worked with Check, and we're using that platform also. And a lot of the fact checkers, they don't know the tools, and that is the first time that we use the tool. So it takes quite some time to adjust and be familiarized with the tool. It would be great if, you know, all of the people are familiar with it. So when you do the fact checking, like in a very short amount of time, like the election, it's very handy to, you know, just if everybody knows the tool. And of course, at the end of the day, when you think about engagement and spreading the result of the fact checks, you have to think about the promotion and branding. And once again, you know, sometimes I feel that a lot of fact checkers just don't think about spreading their fact check is spread to the audience. So that's also something that you need to consider, what kind of engagement plan or what kind of, you know, how to make the content read by many people. Yeah, I think that's really a big part of it.
Great. And so I want to get into the nitty gritty about what techniques you found worked best. But before that, we had a quick question from Pallavi, who's interested in knowing more about academic collaborations. So both of you have experience with within the coalitions, not just working with other kind of news outlets, but also working with academic institutions. So for one of our audience members, do you want to address that a little bit more? And either can start.
Yes, we worked with different experts, but not from academic level, but from NGOs. We worked with experts in economy, in security, in public money, public procurement. We also have some students from university, from journalism department, but we haven't this collaboration with all universities, with teachers, for example, or professors, or pupils. We haven't this experience. We work just with NGOs or with independent experts.
Okay, in the case of Check Facta, actually, ICFJ Oren introduced us to Notre Dame University, and we have the chance to collaborate with them. And the thing that I say that the Check Facta Coalition is actually built to have a big database of, you know, what kind of misinformation and disinformation. Those databases are being used by the team in the Notre Dame University to make a module on digital literacy. So they develop very cool modules on, you know, how to, what kind of misinformation spread in Indonesia, what kind of images that draw people to believe in misinformation. They do the research based on our database, and they created a module for it, and they already have their website launched. And I think that is one of the a very great example of collaboration, because at the end of the day, you have the fact checkers, you know, fact checking all the misinformation, but at the on the other side, you also have to do the digital literacy, because when people know how to differentiate the misinformation, when people understand how to use Google reverse image, for example, it makes our work as fact checkers a lot more easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the TruthBuzz project has really shown us that collaboration is key. So we're not duplicating work, because there's so many people all over the world who are doing a lot of really amazing work in this field. So we actually had another question too from Tefreem, who had some question about some of the tools that you've used, Astu. And I think it would be great to talk about, because you'd mentioned that you'd worked with the Brazilian kind of network Comprova to learn more about what worked and what didn't work. So I'd love for you to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of what kind of tools were you using to, for example, create the graphics, and what kind of techniques did you find working with CheckFacto worked really well when fact-checking?
Well, actually, when we talk with Comprova, we found that we have a very different kind of collaboration. Whilst Comprova is only focusing on debunking hoax from via WhatsApp channels, so it's kind of different with what we do during the presidential debate. Sorry, you mean the tools within the collaboration, or the tools that I use for the I don't know, the social media?
I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about the tools within the social media too. What exactly you used? It seemed like people are interested in that too.
Oh, okay. So, well, I haven't prepared any. Okay, so I think that the easiest part of it is just to make a video. You know, I think on the last webinar we talked about a lot of tools, and we introduced some of the attendees to Lumen 5, which is a very cool web-based video makers. I also worked with Canva. So it's a very easy web-based tool to make the kind of, you know, a very social media and very young visual lookings. Yeah, but for the coalition, I think the very hard work is on the, you know, on the hands of the fact checkers. So what I do is just turning the fact-checked content into a more social media friendly. But you know, because election is very difficult, you know, election is very hard, and we have to you know, deal with a lot of things. Like I see when someone asks about threats targeted for the fact checkers, we have that too during the election. One of our partner is, you know, being threatened by one of the candidates, and you know, as a coalition, is our job to give moral support, because unfortunately for us, unlike Comprova, they have their own lawyer. I mean, they hire a lawyer, I suppose. But for us, because we are different media and we are not one organization with official papers, we're just like a community, a coalition. So that makes us hard to, you know, support if one team member involved in legal issues. But of course, we can always give our mental support. And we also connected with the press council. We help mediation. So yeah, I think the most important part of the coalition is when somebody attack you, we are there as, you know, as the guards to help in any way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Lilia, back to you. Could you talk a little bit about the techniques when it came to fact-checking amongst the coalition that worked really well for ProFact Moldova?
In this project, we have a great collaboration with Troles. Let's share this. Troles is an application, let's say. Do you see? Troles?
Not yet. There we go.
Troles is an application which help us to identify the trolls. That's why we have a great collaboration with this, let's say, IT specialist from the Troles. And also we collaborate with Cardiff University, some specialists from there. And they also help us to investigate and to find some interesting information. And then I will say about them our great work about some fake profiles used by Sputnik Moldova. If you see, tell me please, you see something? Do you see something?
Yeah.
We did this investigation together with Cardiff University and local and national journalists from Moldova. We discovered that periodically Sputnik from Moldova published articles signed by Elena Komolova. Moldova is a very small country, and journalists know each other. That's why we ask questions: who is Elena Komolova? And journalists discovered that Elena Komolova has also a social fake account, and she published periodically texts about our ex-prime minister or Maya Sandu, or about unionists, and her articles put Maya Sandu or Andrei Năstase, which are pro-European politicians, put in a bad light. That's why we identified these photos, and you see that Elena Komolova, there is no journalist with the name Elena Komolova, and her picture is a fake one. And as you see, her picture is digitally manipulated, do you see, by combining photos of two people. It was created by photoshopping, photoshopping the face of Russian interpreter Sati Kazanova, which also was included in the photo in Russian model Elizaveta Moshokina. In conclusion, the photo of fake Elena Komolova is done by a collage from two photos of Russian artists. Do you see? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We have also a similar text about Nicu Gonchar. Nicu Gonchar is a colleague of Elena Komolova, also from Sputnik. Do you see? Nicu Gonchar is presented on the Sputnik Moldova as the author of editorials written in Russian and also in Romanian language. The description of Nicu Gonchar is also used in both languages. On Sputnik website, Gonchar presents himself on Sputnik Media as a former resident in Chisinau. But he tells that now is living in Austria for 15 years, together with his wife and children.
Mm-hmm.
He describes his occupation as PR specialist. As you see, the images of Nicu Gonchar depicts the face of a smiling man in front of a flower shop. Here is the flower shop. We found that this flower shop is in Austria, in Vienna. The photo used to present this journalist from Sputnik is not authentic. Is not authentic. As you see here, Gonchar's special features present a hybrid of different faces with the evidence of photo manipulation, as you see. Here we have.
Wow.
Yes. Here is Nicu Gonchar fake Facebook profile. On this profile, Nicu Gonchar promotes his misinformation texts or editorial.
Wow. And Lilia, really quick, I saw that there were some questions around, the speed of misinformation is so quick. And of course, doing real fact checking and journalism can take time. So once you were able to kind of verify and debunk some of these fakes, so to speak, how were you able to tell if you were kind of making a dent in how people, in what people believed about these profiles? Basically, were you hearing back from audiences that they were, after reading your debunks, believed differently?
People, in general, journalists, they didn't believe that Sputnik operate with let's say, fake names. But we did these articles also in a video form. That's why we share on Facebook to have a great impact, and people were impressed about this technique of Sputnik to spread misinformation and texts. Because Nicu Gonchar, as Elena Komolova, they began to publish their articles from 2016, when Sputnik Moldova came in Moldova.
All right, that makes sense. And also talking a little bit about this, Rana also had a question. She wanted to go back to talking about the safety issues, if your team faced any, and or fact checkers were targeted on your team, and how you dealt with that.
Yes, we also thought about our security. That's why we signed our articles ProFact Moldova, not with our real name, because we work together with a team of journalists.
Okay, great. And so going back to kind of the collaborations and the benefits, I know, Lily, at the beginning of the webinar, you talked a little bit about, teaming up with other newsrooms was helpful, because then newsrooms that maybe didn't necessarily have the same resources could kind of trade techniques and skills and resources with each other. Are there other benefits for collaborating with newsrooms on this kind of work? And then also for both of you, I'd love to hear any kind of challenges you faced in terms of working within the coalitions, and how you might have overcome those challenges. So either can start.
Yeah, I think like I've said earlier, Check Facta is a very loose collaboration, and we don't really have the rules, that strict rules in terms of how to share, or what kind of consensus, or we're just, because the idea is to have more online media to join this coalition, and we don't want to become a burden, because first of all, people have to work for their newsroom. That's their priority, and we respect that. So at the end, we become very not a permissive, because it seems like very undermining, but it kind of, we don't want to push each newsroom to, force if when we fact check the same misinformation, for example, or when we fact check on the debate, one newsroom can have a different conclusion than the other newsroom. When that happens, it's very nice because we have Mafindo as the non-media organization. Then they will become a kind of a mediator for us and try to put it in the Check Fakta website in the least colliding way as possible, so it doesn't seem like the media are against each other. Sometimes we also take the path of not publishing different or contradicting fact checks in order to make the coalition solid. So yeah, and what else? Yeah, I think that's from me.
Great. Lilia, was your experience kind of the same, or do you have other kind of
in this period in Moldova were local elections. That's why this network helped us very much. As you see, I want to share again. Share the screen. Okay. Do you see something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Here is our platform, ProFact Moldova, and we work in ProFact Moldova in Czech media platform. Here we have some maps. Do you see local elections? In local elections, we keep all drafted investigations from local period. In October, local elections were held in Moldova. When the local public authorities were elected, there are mayors or district councillors. In this period, 2 months, journalists also from national and the local and regional media, members of ProFact Moldova, carry out journalistic investigations at the candidates in these local elections. All investigations, as you see, were documented in Czech media platform. All are here. For example, Primăria is a mayor from Ceadărlunga. Ceadărlunga is a small city from the south of the country. Here were investigated and documented the candidates from this small town. After that, all journalists from the country, from the south, north, or from national level, published their texts, but also use this information from our platform, from Czech media. For example, with the help of Constantin Celac, which is a active journalist member from the south of the country, we did a great investigation about the conflict of interests of one candidate from Cimișlia city, and this investigation was published on the website Moldova Curată. Investigation about the conflict of the interests of Mihai Olărescu, which was the candidate from Cimișlia, and Mihai Olărescu was the president of this district, and when he was the president, his firm bought some services from the mayor of Cimișlia, and we discovered this conflict of interest. And here, as you see here, where the public procurement public procurements. There are some contracts. And this investigation had a great impact in Cimișlia. As I said, we worked together with Constantin Celacu, and Constantin Celacu gave us, to all journalists, great information from the local level.
Great.
Another map is fact-checking. There are texts with some manipulation elements or misinformation. And here journalists or experts put some links or some questions, and all journalists who are interested in this topic, they try to investigate and to document something. Another map is fake profiles. In this map, we investigate, as I said, Elena Komolova fake profiles from Sputnik. And when investigation was ready, we put the mark false, as you see.
Mm-hmm.
We have new, in progress, irrelevant, false, true, partial false, and unimportant, let's say.
Lilia, just a quick question.
Yeah.
So interesting. So going off of a question that we had from one of the participants, Mehendi from Bangladesh, he was asking how many people are engaged in this kind of fact-checking. And I also wanted to ask, in addition to kind of how many people were working on this, is especially within a coalition, how are you deciding what to focus on? Which profiles to check, which ones to ignore? Could you walk us through a little bit of both the kind of how many people were actually working on this and how did you decide where to focus your energy and time, especially when you're working with a large number of people?
Okay, yes, we have, let's say, the first stage is, the first level is to monitorize these texts. And we have some, a lot of pre-documentation. That's why we check this information on statistics, on politician declaration. And if we see that it is some misinforming or manipulation, we continue to investigate and to debunk these texts. If we haven't any details or any, let's say, elements that is a misinformation that, or it is a empty declaration, we give up.
Okay, great. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay. Another map is to check the politicians' declarations, and here journalists put some declarations of politicians because, as I said, we had local elections and politicians came in this period with different promises and declarations, and here we put in this map.
Check maybe easier, click them on one place.
Okay, and Sputnik. We also have a map in which we try to identify the misinformation on the photo and video. Here's about Sputnik frequency in Moldova. Here is about images and videos. Journalists puts images or photos from Facebook or from other sources, and we try to investigate if it's a real photo or not. What is very important in this platform that in Czech media, photos and video are encrypted, archived. That's why if they on the Facebook they are deleted, this platform keep them.
Okay. Wow, fabulous.
Yes. In this summer on Facebook, this photo were viral, and people say that this photo are from Siberia. But we investigate and discovered that is a collage and is a manipulated photo. It's not a real one.
Mm-hmm.
And we published this text on stopfalse.media, and after that we also disseminate this text to our media outlets.
Right, wow. Going off of that, this is a question I think for both of you, Lilia and Astu, from Ratna. So she wanted to, or he wanted to clarify if the decision to either for Lilia's side to debunk or not to debunk something that's false, or to fact check a politician in your end, Astu, was that decided by the consensus of the coalition or all the newsroom partners? Or could you talk a little bit more about kind of the specific, how everyone decided what to focus their energy on?
Oh, we decide together because let's give an example. For example, a journalist said, hey Lilia, I see one text about, let's say, this stag. And he or she puts in this platform, and we try to investigate, and we found some elements that is a manipulating photo, and we decided together if we concentrated on this photo or on this investigation or not. It's not my own decision to investigate or not. It is a consensus.
Mm-hmm. Astu, did you have a similar experience with coming to a consensus with all the members? And if so, what was that process like?
Yeah, I think it's quite similar with how Lilia described. When we do the live fact checking, of course, like everybody has their own, because we're fact checking the same person at the same time. So
right.
It's a matter, it's a matter of, who's doing what and not wasting a lot of energy at one same thing. So it's a matter of who's doing the research, who's doing the writings of the articles, and that kind of thing. But after the election, it got we have a lot of misinformation from the social media. And so, we decide together which one is more urgent to be debunked, or if there's no one is doing that, usually we have a WhatsApp group and we kind of raise the question, has anybody done this, or have you found the correct photos? Unfortunately, even though when live fact checking, we use also Czech media, but I think the way Lilia and the guys from Moldova use the platform is very, very optimized. I mean, you're doing everything on that platform. Well, here, we only do that for 2 days, which I think we could have done more. And that reminds me that, we were talking about expanding the network and, collaborating with as many organizations as possible. And so we don't want to be like exclusive collaboration. We collaborate with Google. In fact, Google provides their room for us to do the live fact checking. We also collaborate with WhatsApp and Facebook, because right now we are the Mafindo actually is handling a WhatsApp business channel using the database from the Czech Fakta Coalition to, create an interactive question. People can ask questions in WhatsApp and then they get the answer automatically. So I think, but that's a very great use of Czech media. I'm really, really impressed with what you do, Lilia.
Yes, it was very difficult for me and for my colleague Beatrice, who worked together with me, and to convince journalists to come on this platform. It was very, very difficult because, for example, journalists who write investigations, they say that I don't need this platform because I have my own tools. Yeah. And I convince them, come please on this platform, because with help with your tools, you will share your experience to local and regional journalists who have know these tools. They didn't know how to investigate, how to ask uncomfortable question to a candidate or to the candidate of presidential district. That's why I convinced. It was very difficult job to go to speak with them, to look what are the advantages to work on this platform, and also was very difficult to convince them to work in Slack and to write in Slack. I tried, come on Slack, no on Facebook, but I need this expert and I find him or her on Facebook. Come in Slack, please, because it's a encrypted one. This very, very difficult, but not impossible. Because in September we have small project in which we give International Journalist Center give to 5 teams of journalists some mini grants, and they did together investigations. Journalists who write investigation with journalists or 2 journalists from local media outlet. They write together one investigation. That was very useful to work in platform because experienced journalists gave them some tasks or some advices, and they are very useful to work in platform. And finally, they said, it is good to work in platform.
Perfect. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so I was going to ask one question. Before I do that and then get to a couple last questions it looks like we have, I wanted to give both of you the opportunity, if I missed anything or if there's anything you wanted to add before we move on. Otherwise, I was going to ask about what kind of advice you would have if anybody wanted to start similar coalitions in their country. So I've opened the floor for either of you guys to answer that.
Yeah, actually there's this, sometimes when we do fact checking, a lot of people or a lot of, when people interview us or academics interview us, they ask, how do you measure your success? How do you change the behavior of the people towards misinformation? And that's a very difficult question to answer, and sometimes you cannot, the answer will come over time, but probably not in the nearest future. So it is very important if you're a fact checker or if you're working in a coalition like this to, celebrate every success that you have. When you have one viral fact check article, just take that win and celebrate it with the whole coalition, because that gives us, the boost to, keep doing what we do. Yeah.
I agree with you, because we should know that the changes don't come immediately after the publication of certain investigations. Changes are made gradually. That's why we also concentrate we as API, we concentrate to do in villages media literacy activities. And we go from villages to speak with people how to identify misinformation or fake news text, how to make this difference between a truly media outlet and those who publish misinformation. And readers now, from 2 years, when we go from villages, we see that the readers are more critically and no longer distribute such information unless they are sure of it. As the citizen of Republic of Moldova need trainings in the field of media literacy or media education. One change was that, for example, that in case of fake profiles, that Sputnik portal stopped publishing publishers with the name of two fake editorials. And we think this great effort which we did with journalists and also with colleagues from International Journalists Center.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think that's a really good point, that it can't just be one technique or one kind of easy fix. It really is coming at it from a lot of different angles, as both of you point out. So we just have a couple minutes. So it looks like we have 2 last questions. So maybe one of you could answer one of the questions. So one is from Rakesh, and he's asking about how social media, and so if social media is useful for controlling misinformation. So I think maybe Astu, this would be a good question for you, specifically around how you use social media so effectively, like Instagram, to kind of spread the fact checks.
Right. So when you say that social media is useful to control misinformation, basically a lot of misinformation is coming from social media. So yeah, what we can do is actually, after we verified an information, we throw it back to social media, hoping that it will spread as widely, because most of the time the misinformation is shared by thousands, and the fact-checked content is shared by hundreds if we're lucky.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about social media to control misinformation, but I think we have succeeded in our collaboration with Facebook, for example, as the third-party fact checkers, because we can get ideas of what is the misinformation right now is being viral or being spread by how many people. Because social media, the thing is, you have an exact matrix. When one thing get viral and one thing is not really viral, so you can set your priority according those metrics. I guess that would be one of the advantage and disadvantage. But also don't forget that in social media, people send us direct messages, just like they send us misinformation through WhatsApp. Sometimes it's really worth to check your DMs and, see whether people actually sharing things that are not in the more public sphere. Sometimes they circulating wrong messages in a closed circles, and when someone tip you off, it really it's worth fact checking, so you can prioritize that.
Great, absolutely. Okay, so I think that
we also spread our text on social media, but we work with regional and the local newspapers. Our texts are published in newspapers because people have no alternative to have internet or to have an app to see this debunk. That's why we go to a world technique to publish this debunking text on newspapers.
I think that's such a good point. I think sometimes we get too caught up in the kind of what's the latest digital tool or latest digital technique. But I think, as you both mentioned, it's so important to go to wherever your audience actually is. And sometimes that's not on social media. Great. Well, we're kind of at the end of our time. Really quick, since we did have one last question, each of you just take maybe just a minute to name your favorite tool that you've used to debunk or to fact check. What's a tool that's made your life easier when doing that work?
I would say during the live fact checking, Slack really helped a lot because we can make different rooms, and we can, when the first part of the debate, we go to this room, and then the second part comes, we go to another room. So it makes everything very organized. So Slack was great. Check media is also great, I think, but we need to optimize it the way Lilia's team do it. I mean, that's really just amazing what you do. And
I agree with my colleague, and we also use Signal because it has crypted phone calls. Mm-hmm. So when we speak with sources, we speak with Signal, not from WhatsApp, not from Facebook or Viber, but from Signal.
Because it's more secure.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a great way to end our webinar. Thank you so much, Astrid. Thank you so much, Lilia. This was a super interesting conversation that's so important. Thank you to everybody who joined and asked really interesting questions. We really appreciate it. We've recorded the webinar, and so stay tuned to ICFJ.org and our Facebook pages and IJNet for kind of updates on the recording and the webinar, and we'll also send that out via email to all who signed up. And also, I just want to thank Dow Jones and Craig Newmark Philanthropies once again for supporting this series, and wishing everybody who observes or celebrates a happy holiday and a great new year. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I want also to thanks to ICFJ for their help.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, me too, of course. ICFJ, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been so great working with you both. Thank you.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.